Hi guys, Josh McGrath, your president-elect, West Virginia Association of Realtors, and I am here this afternoon with Justin Hilbert from the West Virginia Housing Development Fund, and he is here to share with us some information about a couple products specifically that they currently have available and how these can help you as a licensee find a buyer a home and get people in a house that maybe otherwise don't think they can actually buy one right now. So tell us a little bit about the low down payment program that you guys have.
Thanks, Josh. The low-down home loan is offered by the West Virginia Housing Development Fund. You've probably heard it called a couple of other things, but most likely the low-down home loan or the down payment and closing cost assistance program. We recently renamed it a couple of years ago.
So which name is it now?
It's the low-down home loan.
Okay, perfect.
Yes. So that is our second deed of trust, and you can combine that with any first lien West Virginia housing program, and it helps, like the name says, for down payment and closing costs.
Okay. So explain to me exactly how that might work for a buyer. If I've got a buyer, they're wanting to buy a home, you have the first product, right? The first lien. So that'll finance up to how much?
Up to the insurer limits.
Okay.
Will go as high as FHA or Fannie Mae will allow.
Okay. So on an FHA loan, you all would lend up to all but 3.5%.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So the buyer would need their 3.5% down payment.
Correct.
However, they could leverage this product, and that would help them then offset that 3.5%.
Exactly.
And allow them to effectively be in the house with no money down.
No money down out of their own pocket.
Okay.
Exactly. And
awesome.
If they have some left over, Josh, from what's allotted toward the down payment, we can then apply it to any closing costs that they may incur as well. So you're exactly right. They could get into the loan without any money out of their own pocket.
Okay. And the amount that you guys lend on that second note, how is that amount established?
It's a set amount. It hasn't changed from the fund in years. It's a 2% fixed rate loan for 15 years. So it's extremely affordable money to borrow, and the maximum loan amount there is $8,000.
Okay. So they could borrow $8,000, and does that matter the purchase price on the house?
No, up to 8 is the limit on the second.
Okay. And what's the interest rate on that second?
2% fixed.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then that is structured over a payment term of how long?
15 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you'll pay off your first mortgage in 30 years. All of our proprietary programs are 30-year fixed loans, but the second, the low-down home loan, is a 15-year term. You can pay that off quickly, and you can pay it off almost immediately if you'd like. But
is there a prepayment penalty for that?
There's not.
Okay.
But the smarter thing would be to apply any funds that you might have toward the first lien, because that's always going to be your higher interest rate.
Right. What are those rates running now in the ballpark? Do you have a kind of a range?
Happily. Our homeownership program right now is 5.6%.
Wow. That's great.
That's for a 30-year fixed rate loan. Our homeownership program we're very lucky to be able to offer always generally at well below market rates.
That's great. So I could get the first mortgage at 5.6.
Correct.
I can get an additional $8,000 at 2% for 15 years, which means, what's that payment? Like nothing, right?
It's
very minimal.
I think $58 if you max it out.
Okay. So $58 a month, but I get the $8,000 that could be my down payment. So now effectively I've moved into a house with nothing out of pocket.
Exactly.
Assuming that maybe the seller has covered my closing costs as part of that negotiation.
Sure. Happens all the time, and we see that a lot.
So if I have a buyer, and let's say that the seller's willing to cover the closing costs perhaps, but maybe the seller has said, under this new NAR thing, because we're all hearing it, the agents that are watching hear this, I'm not willing to offer compensation to a buyer broker. Would this be allowed to be used by the buyer to pay their individual agent for representation?
It would. And hot topic, right?
Right.
It's about all we heard for the longest time. So we met as a group at the fund, and we see obviously the value that agents bring to the transaction for their buyers. And it's a legitimate closing cost for a buyer if that's what has been agreed upon per compensation.
Nice. That's
so
great.
We are allowing the $8,000 for the low-down home loan to go towards any compensation that's due from the buyer.
Okay. Fantastic. So one last question on this topic. If I have a buyer and I think they may qualify, this would be a good program for them. What are kind of just the high-level qualification requirements for a borrower to use this product?
Well, first, Josh, I would, as I'm sure you recommend to all of your customers, speak with the lender first.
Absolutely. Always.
Get pre-qualified. We have a fantastic group network of lenders throughout the entire state. There's a list on our website that you can look at to see who can partner with the West Virginia Housing Development Fund. And that is banks, independent mortgage companies, and credit unions. So we run the gamut there. So, of course, get pre-qualified. Your lender will help you with specifics. But in general, there are 20 counties in the state of West Virginia where you must be a first-time home buyer.
Okay.
Those are generally the more populous counties. We call those our non-targeted counties. However,
for definition, we'll cut you off for a second, but for definition, what is a first-time buyer?
Great question. First-time home buyer is someone who has not owned and resided in their primary residence within the last 3 years.
I think that's key to know, right?
Absolutely.
Because some people don't realize that maybe, in some cases people go through a divorce, right? And maybe they've rented for the last few years, but they're ready to take that next step of home ownership. And they may think they're not a first time home buyer because they have owned a home. So I just like to point that out to the folks that may be watching.
It's a great point. And I'll tell you something crazy that we've even seen as well. Someone that still qualifies for a first time home buyer loan is someone who might own an investment property, but for whatever reason rents or lives with their parents still.
Okay.
They don't own their primary residence, so they're still a first-time home buyer.
Interesting. So if they've purchased an investment property, not their own residence,
not their own primary.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay. Very cool.
So great distinction. Thanks for bringing that up. But for our non-targeted counties, which are our less populated counties in the state, the counties in which we want to encourage home ownership, you do not have to be a first-time home buyer, regardless. So you could own your own home now. Choose to use the home ownership program in those targeted counties,
right?
The less populated
nice,
counties.
But you still get that great rate.
Absolutely,
you can still use the second $8,000 if needed.
Yes.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And the home ownership program can also be combined with all mortgage insurances. So it can go conventionally with private mortgage insurance. But if the customer is a best fit for an FHA insured loan, VA insured, or USDA, they can also use our program with those particular types of insurance.
Okay. So again, talk to your lender,
Yes.
figure out which product's going to be best for the consumer.
Exactly.
Nice. All right. So real quick, another topic. I know you guys have another product out there for veterans.
Oh, yes.
And so could you give us just a little high level look at what that is right now?
It's a fantastic program. Governor Justice actually created a law with this program, and it is the West Virginia Veterans Home Loan Mortgage Program. It's a mouthful, but it's a great program. Again, just passed this recently in the regular legislative session. What the Senate bill created was a loan that was eligible for veterans in the state of West Virginia for a primary residence loan. So, to clarify that, the veteran does not have to be from West Virginia or currently live in West Virginia. They can move into the state as long as they have a veteran status. It's also open to active service members and also spouses of veterans that were killed in the line of duty.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So as long as the veteran is purchasing a primary residence in the state of West Virginia, they can use this program. They must also have to have $2,500 of their own money into the transaction that can go towards appraisal cost, closing costs, whatever the cost may be, down payment. They have to have $2,500 of their own funds in the transaction. But I will say the crown jewel of that program is our rate. By law, that rate is 1% below our homeownership program rate.
Wow.
So it's a 4.600% 30-year fixed rate loan.
That's incredible.
Yes.
And that is used for veterans on purchase. I'm assuming they can't refinance with that rate.
Purchase only for a primary residence. Yes.
All right. Very cool.
And similar to the home ownership program, unlike the name might suggest, and I think there's a little confusion about this, it does not have to be a VA loan.
Okay.
So your veteran gets you in the program.
Got it.
It can be used again with conventional private mortgage insurance, VA certainly, FHA or USDA. So whatever is the best financial fit for the customer, they can use that program.
And it's a 30-year fixed rate
Yes.
on the mortgage itself.
On the mortgage itself at 4.600%.
Wow. And is there a limit on what that purchase price could be?
Yes, great question. It's $350,000 throughout the entire state.
It's a pretty good purchase price in West Virginia. So.
Great purchase price. And unlike our home ownership program, which does have the constraints of income limits, there are no income limits on this program.
Wow.
So the first lien program has no income limits. You can also use the low down home loan.
Oh, so you could partner that with it and take advantage of the additional $8,000 if you needed it.
Yes.
Wow.
Provided that they meet the income requirements of the home ownership program. But the first lien West Virginia Veterans program does not have any income requirements.
Nice. Very cool. And so you said if they meet the income requirements, what are the income requirements for that low down payment product?
Well, they would follow the home ownership program requirements, and they vary by county.
Got it.
They vary by household
go to the
size.
website.
Go to the website.
Go to the website.
I don't know those right off, but your lender will know those, of course, too.
And you said that varies by county and by size of the household.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And unlike USDA insurance, we don't go by everybody in the household. We only count the people that are title holders to the property.
So not kids.
Correct.
Just the people who are going to be on the deed.
Right. They go towards the income calculation, but you get the benefit of having a 4-person household to get you a higher limit.
Got it.
So, kind of get the best of both worlds there.
Very nice. Yeah. Well, thanks for taking time to just give us a little insight. This is very beneficial information, especially right now in a market where we've got a lot of people, I think, that would like to buy and maybe are still trying to figure out exactly how.
Of course.
And we are starting to see inventory, I think, trend in a positive direction. So hopefully as we go into 2025, this will be a continued product. So thank you.
I hope so. Happy to be here. Like I said, we value the agents across the state like our lender partners. We have anecdotal and research data that tells us it's not only the lenders that tell their buyers about our programs, but also agents across the state. So we're happy to provide affordability.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. And I know our realtors like to be as educated as possible so they can be out there making sure they're giving the consumers the right information. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Awesome.